Howdy, hackers, and welcome to another episode of FairLight TV. I try to read all comments to the videos, and I also try to pick up if there are any requests. And one of the requests we have received is behind the scenes, kind of director's comments on the FairLight demos. So I had a chat with Adam Trident, and he was willing to do that for us. So this is him discussing the in business nobody can hear you scream. All the technical details around the demo from FairLight winning at Reunion. So over to Trident. Okay, we are back after the long summer break with Trident. We have had a number of comments, and I try to comment everything that you, where all the comments you post on the channel. And Marv 0815, I don't know what that is, but Marv wanted a behind the scenes program for the most recent demos that FairLight released. And I've had a chat with Adam, and the wish here is that we will focus on the technical details on this one, and then we will have a bigger one also including Fegolhus and the Sarge, and that will be focusing on 1337 then, more on the creative process and yeah, the thoughts, the more artistic thoughts. Would that be a correct understanding?
Yeah, that sounds good. We'll do the deep dive into the code here and separate the details out of that into to this episode. I think
Yeah.
that sounds great.
Super. All good. Summer has been good, or still having holidays, or
Yeah, oh yeah, very good. In fact, it's been we're in Sweden. It's not too hot here. It peaks at about 24 degrees every day right now, which is really nice, especially compared to if you see other people in the southern parts of Europe who has extreme temperatures. And normally, you know, you'd be complaining about it not being warm enough.
Mhm.
But I don't know, seeing those temperatures, it feels really good that it's not warmer than it is. So
global
very,
warming is pushing it to be a bit too hot even here. So,
yeah.
all right, let's see if we can do a sharing of just that window. Would that make any sense?
Yeah.
Okay,
So
so
this looks like the business demo.
yeah, so I thought we were doing it sort of in the direction of first doing the in business no one can hear you scream. The
Right.
winner at a local party reunion in Skåne. So special hi to Skuggan, and sorry for not being there, but at least we produced a demo for the competition.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, should we run it?
Yeah, we could save just first. This is so the two demos that we're going to look at here are of such the difference in terms of the level of ambition is extreme. So the 3037 demo is like doing the damnedest that we could do.
Mm.
Uh, whereas this one is like 2 days before the deadline was said, yeah, let's do it. So this is this is a couple of days of effort. I think most of the effort is probably by Soya, who made the graphics. Uh, the code is not that much, uh, and the so what happened was basically 2 days before the party, uh, Fiegelhose was going,
Yeah.
and we were saying, should we do something? And yeah, let's just do something quick. And because Fiegelhose was um, competing in the music compo with a tune, and he was asking for help to put something together like just a player for that.
Mm.
And he sent over the tune, and it was, hey, this is a really good demo tune.
Mm.
How would you feel about using this song for a demo?
Mm.
and also, you could also compete in the compo with it. And he said, like, but yeah, but then I'll just make another one for the competition. So,
So this is the
so
actual compo tune, but then he competed with something else because this was better than for the demo.
yeah, this was and it turned out to be a great compo tune as well.
Mm.
So the compo tune was actually a 2x song, so the we could make all of the sounds being more, better than a normal 1x tune. So 1x tune is better for a demo because you get more raster time left
Mm.
for the code. But this was the original music compo tune that kind of was turned into a demo.
And his demo compo tune was this Petson and Findus, but it wasn't that. It was
Yeah,
that these
Petsky and
are two
Findus.
very local cartoon characters, and he twisted that into something as Figge always does. He
Yeah,
takes something and then twists it a bit, so he gets sort of the Sid or Commodore or to get that aspect somewhere. So it's the word, the name is always sort of a joke.
yeah. So this was Petsky was or
Oh,
normally
Petsky
I
and
would
Findus.
Petson. Yeah, the character is actually Petson.
Yeah,
Now it was Petsky and Findus. Huh, the name of it.
ingenious,
So
ingenious.
yeah,
Okay.
yep. So yeah, I guess we could pause. Yeah, we could probably give it a few more seconds to make the stuff appear.
Yeah,
If
just
you let
pointing out this is full screen, just so you don't miss it. It's so easy that when Adam is doing his demos that you don't think the border is there, but it's always the effort of removing it. So just pointing that out.
Yep, this is full screen Starfield and old the good old uh Fairlight logo intro green raster bar thing. Actually, uh this intro was uh really used for another demo already. It was the Christmas demo that we had. So
Hmm?
it's kind of a reuse, but for an intro, it's kind of okay because
I just need to see one thing.
sure.
Okay, so the bug in the intro, the or the legendary intro is not there.
Right.
For those of you who have who heard this before, it's probably a bit of a repetition, but normally the raster bar sort of slides in between, always in front of the dark red color, but here it doesn't. So I guess this means that this is an actual raster bar, whereas in
Yeah.
the legendary intro, it's a set of sprites, and there is a Vic bug that always gives sprites priority over this DO24 or whatever it is,
Yep.
even if they are said to have a lower priority. So it's actually sort of a really faulty thing in the Vic.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the backstory to this here was actually on the 30 and 30. Actually, if you can pause it right here.
Yeah.
Um, we had so in the working on the 30 and 37 demo, Soya and the Sarge were kind of teasing me about how some of the demos that I made before were like this text coming up like bullet points on a PowerPoint slide.
Yeah.
Uh, so they were saying, hey, this guy makes PowerPoint demos, demos like it would do a PowerPoint. So the idea here was to really just go with that and say, hey,
Mm.
this is the PowerPoint demo. We're gonna use PowerPoint slides with bullet points. And someone said, but you should probably have, inverted the color scheme here to have a white background and black text. And that's probably true. Uh, but but one thing to note though is the color fade of the in and out fades of the text. They look really nice because of the alternating color raster color thing going on, um, where you put two raster colors on top of each other, they blend together,
Mm.
and this this PowerPoint transition effect here uses that to make the to make the transitions a bit more just you get more colors in there.
So I guess this is something we need to code for the real PowerPoint as well, because it
Yeah,
looks so nice here that we want it in our business presentations as well. So
of course. And this is and also the story to this demo is that it's like a uh it's one of those where the real world and the demo world collide
mhm,
in a weird way.
mhm.
So this is a story about a group of like people who are on their uh, to meet with an investor before going to the demo compo. That's it. So
Mhm.
we'll see what happens. So this is really what we're seeing here is
Of course, the
basically
time is 13:37, isn't it?
yeah, it is. That's the time of the meeting with investors. And this is the guy sitting there. So this is drawn by Soya.
Mm.
And the guy sitting there is one of the guys that we've seen before in the starting in the eyes demo.
Yeah,
Uh,
the guy on the lower left,
yeah,
the guy with the eyes.
exactly. The crazy smile uh, is the guy that we saw earlier in the eyes demo.
Mm.
Uh, now, the here on meeting with investors, and this was really just Soya had we had a didn't have much time,
Mm.
so he said, you know what, I'll just draw a couple of pictures, kind of small,
Mm.
like 200 by 200, whatever this is, 140 by 200. It's a small version of just it's not a full screen picture, and we could do something cool, just something around the pictures, and that's it. So the uh, what's going on here is really a kind of a color cycle blend thing on the outskirts of the picture, and just a picture with some fade in and fade out in the middle.
I like the using elements from previous, so you can see there is sort of a red thread between your production. So I like the
Yeah.
Soya is reusing the character in new ways.
Yep. So
Color
the
cycling,
background,
that's very sensory.
it is, yeah. And it's so this one is a blend thing too. Okay, so now this is really just a big scroller with some sprites
Yeah,
behind it. This it's similar move. The sprites move in a similar fashion as the kind of main effect of this demo as well, uh, just by uh, combining sine waves and multiplying with perspective. Here's more of that. So here we get to see the spelling out of the FLT thing, right?
I miss that. I'm blushing. That's so obvious, but
So this was what it was all along. Like this is it. Focus, leverage, traction, and a graph that points up to the right. Could it be
and the bars are the normal standards, and then the curve here is the FLT standard.
right? We're getting some alpha to our investors,
Yeah,
definitely.
we're beating index by a big by a big
Oh
fortune
yeah,
here.
25-ish%.
And
But
this
and
is
that's
also
just the beginning.
the thing in the background. That's not color cycling. That would be something else, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's actually color cycled. It's a picture that is generated by uh, like algorithmically
Mm.
generated and color cycled. So it's it's really a similar. It's really this kind of the same code to an extent as we saw in 1337, the end part of that we're going to look at here today as well, but with just more colors and different uh, patterns.
Mm.
Uh, so and then there is this plasma thing going on the text there. So this is really mostly about uh, having just a lot of libraries for manipulating pictures in
Mm,
various ways so that we
mm,
can lift out the color of the text
mm,
and do something with only that, but not affecting the other colors. And there's a person kind of popping up in the corner there as well,
mm.
which is also one of the ones that we saw in the eyes demo coming in here. Uh, and there is this, the area effect of the color fading going on there as well. So this is mostly just a matter of so I drawing a picture and then me just applying a bunch of like effects to it.
Mm.
But the colors do look very very nice. And here is the pitch. So those are the really standard items things on an investor pitch, and then the
Yeah.
border sprites as as the key thing. And of course, the border sprites are nice. So this is a disp, which means
Mm.
different Y sprite position. We the borders are opened despite the sprites being in different positions on the screen, which is requires some tricky timing to make it work. One of
And,
those old school effects.
and you are doing tricky timing. You're not doing DO17 stretch to have
Right.
the timing the same on all lines.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's tricky timing, but not that tricky. I mean, it's not terribly hard to do this. You have a hardware timer that counts the cycles
Mm,
on the starting from 63 toward on the far left and then
mm,
going down to 0. And what you do is you read that out, and depending on the value of that, you jump into uh you kind of do a branch
mm,
into a piece of code that does nothing but just waits for a few cycles. And
mm.
depending on the branch you wait, uh kind of the inverted number of cycles that you need. So you end up always at the same place on the screen where you need to be kind of to trigger the opening of the border at the right cycle.
All right, but I
And
mean, the old way of doing this was using DO17. So you stretched, you had a like a
yeah,
blank pixel row in the beginning, and then you stretch that. So it looks like the full sprite was bouncing
yeah,
around, but basically it was row 1 to row
yeah,
20 of the sprite. That would be, and then you stretch the last one as well. So the first and last needed to be blank, and then because then you have the same number of cycles per row.
yeah.
If you just do the DSM, but that's not what you're doing here. You are sort of using a conditional number of padding cycles.
Yeah. Yeah, this particular it's actually it's really not that difficult because you can set that hardware timer to you just set it to 63.
Mm,
You kick it off at a specific
mm,
cycle on the line, and then you just know what it's supposed to be. And you read that out, subtract something, uh, and that's it. That's the amount of bytes that you need to branch. And then you just do that. And encapsulate that in a macro, and
mm,
it's super easy to do this. In fact, in this case, it would be hard to do the DO17 thing because of the raster time.
mm.
Uh, the just positioning of the sprites here, this that takes a significant amount of raster time
Mm.
because of the multiply uh, thing going on for the movement.
You're actually
And it,
calculating that. It's not
yeah,
a table. So, okay, yeah.
right, yeah. So in this case, it would have been, could just as well have been using a table of all the movements because
Mm.
it's nothing else going on. But it was again, this was really quick thing. So uh, there is
And this timer thing. So what you're doing is you are setting a CIA timer counting down from 63 to 0 and
yeah,
then restarting automatically. You don't need to hack it.
yeah,
It's just counting down, counting down, counting
yeah,
down. And then
exactly.
you keep that, you set that up in the beginning of the demo, right? Because so you always have it.
Oh, actually, yes, but and, uh, I have one timer for that for just stabilizing the raster
Mm,
interrupts, but this one needed to be different offset.
hmm.
So it's actually set up every frame, uh,
Okay.
just at a position. But it's really it's not that hard.
Mm,
You just need to be careful of what you do,
Mm,
which is really easy today because you can do a single step in an emulator
mm,
and know exactly what those are.
mm.
And you just once and then that's it.
It was more
Back in the day,
difficult, more
oh
difficult
yeah.
when ESCOS was invented and they needed to stabilize the roster, and it was really
Oh
tricky.
yeah, because you had to do things like using visual cues, like setting a background color
Yeah.
register that sort of count the cycles
Mm,
visually
yeah.
on the screen, which was terrible. But it was because we weren't using the real tools back then.
Mm,
Like debuggers were invented,
mm,
but we weren't using them
yeah.
because we didn't have yeah. We had more like toy tools back
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
than the real deal. Now we have the real thing, so it's way easier. And of course, those words that we see are just lifted out of a kind of a startup
What was that?
playbook.
Decacon.
Decacorn. So this is
What is that?
this is a word that started out. It used to be that companies that were worth $1 billion, they were so rare
Okay.
that they were called unicorns.
Yeah.
They were once in a
Mm,
lifetime, whatever, a super rare thing. Your company is a unicorn, $1 billion. And after, so this was maybe 15-ish years ago, something
mm.
like that. And then those unicorns started to become, you know,
Quite
pretty common.
frequent.
Yeah. Suddenly there were bunches of companies worth billions of dollars, multiple billions of dollars. And then, so suddenly there was this new class of companies. They were worth $10 billion. So decacorn, like 10 unicorns, decacorn. Yeah.
That's news
And
to me, and I guess I'm learning this not from listening to business news, but to watch C64
business
demos.
demos. Yeah,
That's
business
where the
demos.
really difficult learning curve is.
Exactly. So this is, and and of course this quote here is by an economist. Who is that said this? Is it Milton? I don't know. The business of business is business. Well, actually, that was a previous quote
Mm,
that we saw. The
mm.
business of business is business, which is a funny quote because of the word business being repeated over and over again. And and the intent is that like a company should do company things and not other things.
Yeah.
So, and and the other quote, which is also the title of the demo, is of course lifted from Aliens.
Mm.
In space, no one can hear you scream, but turn into this horrible like uh quote here in business, no one can hear you scream. Uh, which it kind of takes this whole thing to it, makes it a bit more uneasy feeling. But
Right.
yeah.
More Soya graphics.
Yeah. So here we see the FLT again with another kind of color effect and another color swirl thing. And the FLT is lingering for a few seconds. And now we get to see, what happens. What do the investors think? They seem to be positive, pretty generic, but oh yeah, they love the border sprites. That was the key.
So this is what the investors are saying. So they are going
Yeah,
to invest, and these are the reasons they are actually going to invest in the company.
exactly. So this is the partner meeting. So the typical, you know, approach here is that investors they would have an investment company,
Mm,
and the partners are the people who are both invested in the company and the people who take to make the decisions that they
mm,
they they have a kind of a personal responsibility. And so the typical take here is that an investor would be a partner would be on their own doing kind of scouting and finding companies to invest in and taking meetings. They would take like the daily job is taking meetings,
mm,
and then they would have like maybe once a week or so they would have a partner meeting where all the partners get together and decide, should we invest, what because everyone needs to be on board because it's everyone's responsibility. So they would have a meeting like this and pitch their latest find
mhm.
to the other investors. So this would be the pitch by the investor
Mm.
to their partners.
Right.
And
Right.
again, so that the key in both of these pitches, the border sprites.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. And now we get to see, so this is more lingo going on here.
Yeah,
So
Series A and Series B. So these are the investment rounds.
exactly. So the what we probably saw in this beginning was the seed investment.
Yeah.
Uh, so the first kind of investment that a company would get from an outside investor, and that's usually called a seed investment. And then you have the Series A, Series B, Series C are the follow-on investment rounds. They would typically grow like a couple of X times for each round, and the company would be worth more and more and more.
Mm.
And for an investor, the ultimate goal is either that the company is sold to some other, entity, someone, a big company, a major company, just buying the smaller company, or that the company is taking is going the route of an called an IPO,
Mm.
an initial public offering, going public onto the public
Mm.
markets, the stock market, which is usually when that investor would go from you know liquidating the investment, making the money
Mm.
essentially, and
Mm.
also the founders and the early, the people in the company
Mm.
are on there as well. So
Mm.
this is where you have famous IPO rounds being uh, early days. You'd have Apple, Microsoft
Mm.
in the 80s. You'd have in the 90s. You'd have Netscape and Google, where there were I don't know how many thousands of millionaires created
Mm.
on each of these events. So those are, and this is the kind of the final stage in this investment journey is the IPO. So we'll see. Do we get there?
So the
Here's
series
the,
are still investors putting in more money.
yep, exactly. And then, oh yeah,
Yes. Yes.
we got to the IPO.
Happy
Yeah,
exit.
exactly. And if you pause right here, this zoomer thing going on that we see is really, it's one of the first of its kind. Or the first of its kind, and it's able to zoom uh, high-res pixels, so high resolution pixels in a very far uh, distance into the far distance,
Mm.
and without kind of messing up the pixels. And this is just kind of it's again it's a very similar. It's really the same code as one of the parts in the 1337 demo, but with high res instead of multicolor. But it is a world's first, I think.
And this one is you are pushing this into sprites, or is this a sprite?
No, no, these
This
are
is actually here high res or
yes,
font.
it is. It is, yeah. It is well, actually it is text mode.
Mm.
Like font mode.
Mm.
It's not bitmap high res mode, but
Mm.
it is high resolution single pixel mode.
Mm.
And if you see it going into the distance, you'll see that the pixels are still nicely like the dithering doesn't break when you
Mm.
go away. Yeah, that's it.
Nice.
So the last thing there is probably the most technically challenging part of this demo.
Mm.
Uh, but again, this was really a quick one that we
Yeah.
did just to make uh so most of the work was by Soya and Fiegelhus who did the graphics
Well,
and the music.
people tend to complain. I should complain with quotes here that the efficiency of the FairLight demo production is ludicrous. But if this is what you can do in 2 days, that means that that's sort of the pace of the production of that we can actually kind of entertain if we want to. So yeah. So if we give it 4 months, you understand it's 4 months times these 2 days, so or the 2 days,
Right.
but it's scaled up to 4 months. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and a lot
it's absolutely massive.
yeah, and a lot of this is basically just being uh having done a bunch of demos
Mm,
and knowing what is tricky
mm,
and making that easy.
mm,
So, I mean, to an extent, any kind of software development or programming is about making hard things easy.
yeah.
Uh, is finding that way, uh, like taking something really, really hard and making it easy, and they can just do something useful with that. And yeah, so much of this is encapsulated in
I guess
libraries and
you were
macros.
also rather good at having sort of a library that you maintain in a consistent way, so you can
Yeah,
extract the features, so you don't build everything from scratch every time. You are
yeah,
building it based on something else that you already have, and then you develop new stuff on top of that. So you're
yeah.
building, you're basically standing on the shoulder of a giant. It's just that you are also the giant here in that case. So.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah, definitely. Oh yeah. So I mean things like uh the disp the sprite routine opening
Yeah.
the borders here, one of those that I tend to try to make it every new thing, try to make it reusable.
Mm.
So it's like a library that you could just pop in. Uh and especially things like this that you could just have a use for over and over again. Uh it used to be, I think that especially back in the day
Mm.
when we were doing those things, we were doing it everything was kind of one off. And it was really hard to do anything reusable because of the tools were not there. Like you had one code file in memory
Yeah.
doing everything. That was it. There was no way of kind of calling something else or including the file.
Especially when people were coding in machine code monitors. I mean, reusing that's not even doable.
No, oh, horrible.
But how does this library manifest? Is that a code repo of some sort where you?
Yeah, it's basically a set of assembly code files
Mm,
that uh, include the top level file, and they get a range of things like picture manipulation things, curves for doing movements,
mm,
mathematics stuff like multiplication libraries, 3D code for doing things like runtime, you know, all sorts of useful and uh, simple to use things. Stable length and raster interrupt
mm,
is the one line thing. Doing a sequence of events, again, just a couple of lines. Doing multi-threading, a couple of lines. Uh, Doing other, stack manipulation things for you just encapsulate that in a macro so you can call that from an IRQ. All that's super easy to use.
And you make them
And
into macros, or so
yeah,
you include your main macro file in the beginning, and then you can just use it whenever you like.
yeah.
Well,
So
for
this
me,
is,
I tend to be like, I realize that I've written this before, and
yeah,
and then I dig around in my source file, and I realize, oh yeah, I do have that. So
yeah,
my order of my historical source file is not as yours, I would say.
yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. The trick is to extract the thing that you've done
No.
and try to make it reusable,
Mm.
because then uh, that is easy. So, but
But I
so,
mean, this is possibly not what we plan to talk about. But I mean, Oxity is doing his demo engine, and he's more doing a program that generates demos, so he can write a script and then it's generated. But yours is more source library, and to be honest, I think that's a lot more flexible because
yeah,
you're not sort of locked in by sort of a coding framework. You can just import what you want at any given time, and then that is done.
yeah. So definitely there is. So this is a general thing Like there is this for a while there was a trend of doing no code. It was called no code things, and this is not in the C64 demo world, but in the outside world,
Mm.
where you'd have no code or low code frameworks for doing, anything from websites to business logic
Mm.
to really anything.
Mm.
And you sort of end up, it's really, really hard to do a no code or a low code framework because you end up having to reinvent a lot of the things that you get at the lower level.
Mm.
And in some cases, you can go very far. So one example of a very, very useful low code framework is Excel.
Mm.
So Excel is probably the most widely used programming framework out
Yeah.
there, and it's not used by people who are see themselves as being able to program. It's
Mm.
mostly used by people who don't think that they know how to program.
Mm.
But yeah, they do. They do those, the everything you can do in an Excel sheet.
Mm.
And whereas you're sort of locked into that, but it's perfect for the
Mm.
specific use cases that you have. So in this case, in a Commodore 64 demo setting, it's uh, it's really hard to find a simpler kind of abstraction of everything
Mm.
than just the raw assembly language
Mm.
level because it's so we're working so close to the metal
Mm.
that it's
And we have to be because there is no room for any overhead.
exactly, yeah.
Well,
The closest we can get to is using those macros that I think at this point.
well, I mean, what do we have? We have 1 million cycles per minute, right? 1 megahertz.
Right.
And you divide that by 60 if you're using a PAL machine. We end up with
Yeah.
13,000 cycles per screen,
Yeah.
or does that make sense?
I think it's 16,200 something.
Okay, there
I
you
don't
go.
know. Yeah.
I was hoping
I
it's 1337, but it's not. So,
yeah. No.
well, or I should. I'm glad it's more than 1337 because
Yeah.
we squeezed every one of them at points. So,
Definitely.
okay.
Yeah.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.